up, everybody? How's it going? Welcome back to the stream. It's Tuesday. We're getting tactical and all that stuff. How's it hanging, I guess? Techno Heretic, are you the only person? Hey, Ken Peters. Super chat finally goes through. That was a little while ago, but I really appreciate your $5 contribution. Mr. Ken, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. I really do, deeply. But yeah, I think Nurgle Matt would probably find you, would probably find common ground with you. I think he's he swears at me when I turn my camera on and I turn the music off. So we got some beats in the background. Maybe I'll turn my beats up. How's that, chat? Will that make you happy? There we go. I'll just drown out my own voice. How's that sound? It's a dance party. What's up, everybody? Anyway, we're talking about some freaking lists today, as always, but we're only talking about the sexiest lists, those being the ones that have gone in the top 3 to 5 of an event. But I think maybe a focus on the most interesting ones, because this weekend was freaking wild when it comes to Warhammer 40k results. It was kind of all over the place. We got some. Just look at this little snippet here. We're gonna start with a bang, chat. All right. First off, we got some Drukhari coming back to the scene. We got some X1 Death Guard. We have a 4-0 Adeptus Mechanicus. We have a lot of Leagues of Votan. We have a lot of Chaos Demons once we get to the top, which is a little bit less exciting. Some Inari to talk about. A ton of Blood Angels. Blood Angels, like, as far as the eye can see. There's some Grey Knights here, chat. It's been a wild week for Warhammer 40k, and I think it's going to be a pretty good discussion. So I'm excited to get into it. I hope everyone else is. Yeah, as always, we're going to be breaking down these lists. Before we get into that, though, I do want to thank everyone who watched me over the weekend as I streamed the Everwinter GT. I think it went pretty well. I was pretty happy with some of my new camera setups. Definitely need new bulbs in my lights. This was what I learned from the setup that weekend. Lighting at the venue, not good. And my poor lights were not able to handle it. But yeah, it was pretty good. And we had some baller games. We had 2 games with Genestealer Cults on. In fact, the Genestealer Cults I'm looking at right here on the screen. And hot damn, chat. Does that faction have a lot going for it that I think a lot of people slept on? So that was sick. You can go watch the VODs right now on the channel. Obviously, youtube.com/TacticalTortoise. Go to the live section, and all of the VODs are there. I should timestamp them. Remind me to do that. Somebody remind me to do that at the end of the show, so I remember. But yeah, it was a super good weekend. I have a lot of streaming going on this week as well. Less on YouTube, more on Twitch. But I've got Darktide stream scheduled. I have, I think I'm going to stream twice, tomorrow and Friday. I think that I have a live game scheduled that's going to be Tyranids versus Chaos Demons. That's tomorrow at 1 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, so 21 hours from now. Go check that out over on the Twitchies. And then I might stream some Darktide after that. I'm not sure yet. We'll decide. I'll see how I feel. Friday we have an early morning pod finals. That's going to be Classic Tzeentch, Thousand Suns Bird plus what's that other faction? Those stupid Chaos Demons? Chaos Flamers. Tzeentch Flamers. Versus Harlequins, I believe. So that should be a pretty interesting matchup as well. That's going to be the morning, Friday morning, and then I'm going to stream some Darktide that night. So, ooh, it's going to be a good week, chat. So, yeah, hell yeah. I also, I uploaded some content's coming out. I uploaded a video on Angron and all Angron stats yesterday. I do want to make a shout out to that video. I did have some misspeaking. I did talk about Angron's reroll ability able to affect himself, but it's not. I wonder if he gets a chapter master that he'll be able to target on himself, though. But I just totally misread that it affects other units, not himself. But I cut that out of the video. Hopefully it's all good. But yeah, Angron looks like an absolute beatstick. I had a Darktide tips video I posted last week that absolutely blew up, so I'm going to be doing more of that for sure. I think I should have another Darktide tips video out tomorrow. So if you're playing Darktide, come back tomorrow, and I will have some things to teach you. And otherwise, let's get in here, chat. Let's get into some friggin' Warhamster 40,000 lists. Starting with, let's see, what do we got? There's so many events this weekend. Holy crap. The Ontario 40K League. Now, I don't know how this event works. I'm sure maybe there's somebody who from Ontario who can enlighten me. But there were a bunch of different like locations for it. I don't know if this was just like they posted the final results of the league or whatever, but there were a couple different entries for the Ontario 40K League this week. And most of them are up here, so we get to talk about most of them. Yeah, we can also see there's a little bit smaller one. I think this is only maybe 18 people or something. So there was, we only posted the one top player there, but that was a Heretic Astartes. But this one, number 1 was Drukhari, which is sick. So this is a triple patrol build out of Drukhari, and it was some interesting innovations. First off, we can see, so the first attachment is a custom witch cult using precise killers. So that is the Blade Artist, so the +1 AP ability that Drukhari usually trigger on 6s, works on 5s for them instead, and Test of Skill, which gives them +1 to wound against monsters and vehicles. And it's just a ton of witches. 3 times 10 witches, 2 units of Reaver jet bikes, and then that's followed up by a Cabal of the Black Heart patrol detachment with 2 Courts of the Archon. You can unlock 2 of them because you take 2 Archons in the detachment as well, so this is getting a little crazy. One of them is upgraded with Ancient Evil. The other one's Labyrinthine Coming, which I think is the CP regen. Is that right, chat? I forgot to look that one up. Let's find out together. That one is, yeah, you get CP regen on a 6 for either player. Nailed it. We also have the Animus Vitae on that guy, so he can tick up your power from pain by a turn if you hit somebody with the grenade. 10 racks in that detachment, 3 raiders, 2 venoms, and then last but certainly not least, another patrol detachment out of that same custom witch cult. 3 more units of witches. Looks like a 6, a 5, and a 10. Plus another unit of reavers. So we're 3x3 reavers, 6 units of witches. Transports for all of them, and Drazhar, who is the warlord, with Hatred Eternal for that sweet, sweet, delectable full rerolls. And that chat right there, that is a sexy list. That is some primary objective control hardcore, if I do ever say so myself. There's no incubi in this list, right? So there's not a ton of hard-hitting damage. You do get the +1 to wound on all of the little witches, and I believe we are taking Grave Lotus for +1 strength, right? Yeah, +1 strength. So the witches will wound most of the game on 4s or 5s for the most part. So they can get the work done if you need them to. Plus you got the AP, +1 AP on 5, so you're +1 AP on all your successful wound rolls. You got a couple Dark Lances out of the Raiders. It's not nothing. The Court of the Archons actually, it's a million attacks from these lists and the Urgles in those detachments. And then you have the Smash characters as well in Drazhar. So it's not... You'll get there. You'll get there eventually, but mostly I think you're going to be just rocketing witches onto people's objectives and out obsecking them. And that's very rude. That's a very rude thing to do. I am going to skip a couple lists here, chat, just because they're not particularly exciting. We'll talk about Jill Dodge, though, because he is playing Death Guard, which is sweet. Death Guard have been doing pretty poorly in the last couple weeks, but slowly sneaking back up. Nurgle Max in chat. Oh, Nurgle Matt is in chat. We got a list for you, Nurgle Matt. This is an inexorable battalion detachment, so that gives access to the Ferric Blight, which our Lord of Contagion has, who expands the Contagion aura ranges, so he has a bigger aura of that. And Ferric Blight is +1 EP against units within the aura if you are an inexorable unit yourself. So you kind of reduce their armor, but only for units of the same subfaction. Plus a Malignant Plaguecaster with the Plague Skull, so you can throw that at people to deal a bunch of mortal wounds. I think it averages 5 mortal wounds, which is pretty strong. Yeah. For one CP, just dump a bunch of mortal wounds on people, although obviously if you don't get to throw it, then you have a sad time. The other benefit of Inexorable is you can also reduce people's charges targeting unit, which is good because we have a lot of beef in this detachment. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units of Plague Marines. Every single upgrade on those guys. 2 Flails of Corruption, 2 Great Plague Cleavers, 2 Bubonic Axes, 2 Blight Launchers. I guess we are low on Plasma guns? Sometimes I think you see double plasma guns in these units, or maybe Melt does. Today we've taken the Blight Launchers, though. Power Fist and the Plague Champion, Plasma Pistol, and that's all obviously because Plague Marines get their unit upgrades for free. So you just pay the base points cost of the unit, and then you can give them whatever you want. Which honestly, Spiral Chat, probably how the game should work, but it's what it is. It looks like I'm a little off kilter here. I'm gonna reposition my camera real quick. Ooh, that's better. I like that. So that right there, if you want to get if you just want to get swarmed by 60 sweaty, sick men, then this is a sexy list for you. There's 3 Plague Bridge Crawlers filling out the remainder of the list. Yearning for the days of while we stand, we fight, and also the ever-present foul blight spawn with revolting stench vats and viscous death. This list went 4-1. And yeah, just wanders up the table with a bunch of Plague Marines. -1 damage on those guys. Effectively a 2+ armor save because they have armor contempt. And 2 wins piece. Just T5. What are you gonna do? You know? Plus they can mess with your charges. They make you fight last. They don't count you as charging if the foul blight spawn's nearby, so they make a big blob of idiots in the middle of the table and just wander around with 60 objective secured infantry that are basically impossible to kill. 60 sweaty men is an average GT. More like 32 sweaty men. It's almost Nurgle Matthew. I think this is, yeah, maybe Nurgle Matthew is like budding other Nurgle players off, and they fall off, and they eventually go to 4-1 GT. Nurgle Matthew's now running 77 Plague Marines. Is that the meme number? That's incredible. That is dedication to the meme. And I really appreciate that. New South Wales Masters. So this is another event. There are a couple events that got posted that I'm not sure. I don't entirely know the story about this, but this is a 16-player event. So it only ran 4 rounds over 2 days. But I think it was invite only. So I think these players had to qualify to get in here. Anyway, Alexander Engelzos with Adeptus Mechanicus went 4-0 in what looked to be a pretty tough crowd. This is a Lucius, and we have, this is obviously in Australia, and we have been getting a little, Australia is known for its weird results, right? Whatever, anything can win in Australia. And we have been getting a couple finishes out of Adeptus Mechanicus. In fact, I wonder if this is the same person. Oh, no. I'm gonna search the name here, chat. I don't remember who is our resident Adeptus Mechanicus champion over in Australia. Can I not search by name? That's weird. If true. Strange if true. It is! Yeah, Moab 2022, back in September, we had Alexander Engelzos of Adeptus Mechanicus. In fact, he's been one of the only Adeptus Mechanicus entries for a while. So, alright, fair enough. Congratulations, Alexander. Keep hoisting that Mechanicus flag. And Mechanicus really struggling right now, post all of the nerfs. Even though the nerfs have been repealed, still having a little trouble. Anyway, this is a Lucius detachment. It's not noted anywhere, and I don't know if that got missed or something, but it is a veteran Skitarii cohort. So all the Skitarii are cost extra, but get their additional benefits, and they get access to the Cantic Thrallnet to ignore deprecations on the Skitarii abilities. What are they called? Imperatives? There's a Marshal with that relic. There's a Techno-Archaeologist. 10 Sicarian Ruststalkers. And for those who don't know, chat, the Sicarian Ruststalkers in the veteran cohort go absolutely bonkers if you have the CP to fuel them, because you have access to 2 separate +1 attack stratagems. So for 180 points, you get, these guys have their Transonic Blades, so they are an AP3, they're a power sword basically. They're an AP3 weapon that does mortal wounds on wound rolls of 6. They have 3 base attacks, and you can give them +1 attack from Assassin Constructs, I think it's called, and then +1 attack from Aggression Override, I think is the other one. So they get 5 attacks apiece and can just absolutely blunder sort of whatever for a relatively low point cost. The fact that they do a ton of mortal wounds means that they can punch through heavier stuff and just ignore, you know, demonic saves or decent and vulnerable saves. Then they also have a strong base AP as well. I think Sicarians are like the real standout still from Adeptus Mechanicus. Really easy to kill, but they basically just sit behind a ruin. They use their shooting to force you to come closer, and then the Sicarians pounce on you. They jump out with those little robot legs and blow you up. There's a Scorpius Dune Rider in there, alongside a ton of horsies. I know there's some players in the Discord I think would really like this list because there's a million horsies in it. There are 8 total Iron Strider Ballistari with las cannons. In the second detachment, there is a Luminescent Blessing Dominus, so you can give the transhuman effect to one of these units. Plus this Skitarii Marshal with Solar Flare, so we can pick one of the units up and teleport it. And then ton of horses. 2 units of 9 Cerberus Raiders, 3 units of Cerberus, or 1 unit of 9, 1 unit of 5 Cerberus Sulfur Hounds, 1 unit of 9 Cerberus Raiders, 2 units of 3 Cerberus Raiders. So the Cerberus Raiders have the decent shooting, anti-character shooting, and a pregame move. So you can use the units of 3 to screen out, and then you can use the big units to sort of bully, and kind of just use it as a gunboat if you want to, or vice versa. You can string the 9-man Cerberus Raider unit across basically the entirety of the board, use the pregame move to screen out your opponent, physically body block them, keep them in their territory, and they can't go anywhere, and you just get to shoot them a couple more times with those Iron Striders. The Sulfur Hounds are a little bit more damaging. They have a Flamer. They reduce enemy toughness by 1 while engagement range, so they can actually sort of wombo combo with the Ruststalkers. If the Sulfur Hounds get stuck into something, the Ruststalkers like basically become +1 strength. And then the Sulfur Hounds also have a ton of attacks innately, so you can also, if you're stacking melee damage buffs on them, for whatever reason, their horse attack is just a user strength weapon. It's user +1, so any strength buffing effects also affects their horse attack, and they have 2 base attacks per model plus 2 horse attacks. So if you use the stratagem for +1 attack, they go to 5 attacks each. They're only weapon skill 4, but you can improve that. So they also do some pretty serious damage, and they're fast as hell. They're move 12 with a flamethrower, like I said. So it's good stuff. Ooh, good thing. How do you get more troop slots? You just play more detachments. Just keep paying for detachments. If you want to go all in, you can get, I think, 9 troop slots out of a brigade. You can also take multiple patrols, patrol plus its battalion for something. In New South Wales Masters, first round losers colluded to drop. First round losers colluded to drop. I don't know what that means, chat. I'm gonna be honest. Was that like... I mean, losing after you go X1 is like, who cares? That doesn't matter. Let's see if we can find the list on Best Coast Pairings new improved website, chat. Let's see. Event search. Warhammer 40K. I haven't used it too much, but I do really like Best Coast Pairings new website. Alright, here's the event page. Hope that shows up okay. And we can see pairings. So somebody dropped after round 1. Was that what we're talking about here? It was a 16-player tournament. The Admech player was parachuted to win to get him on the Australian team for WTC. Like people scooped to him? I don't know anything about that, chat. He did get a huge win round 2. That is a very big score differential for sure. Round 3 was a close game, and then finals was 48-89 versus. Oh, I clicked the wrong button. Chaos Demons. 2 Hellflayers. How exciting. I could see Chaos Demons going down to 8 Iron Strider Ballistari for sure. I don't think that's a shocker. Chaos Demons turns out real good, but if you kill their greater demons instantaneously, they tend to have a bad time. Anyway, we'll move on from that event, chat. Another Ontario event. This is a Heretic Astartes list. This is Black Legion, interestingly. For those who don't know about Black Legion, it's all about primary objective control, which is very cool. I was glad to be shown what Black Legion did on stream, and I think that video is probably on the replay channel right now. And it was kind of a do nothing, and then I just lose on primary, and I was like, well, okay, fair enough. So the Legionaries in the list can remove objective secured from people. They can give objective secured to the Chaos Terminator brick, which is extremely difficult to kill, obviously, with Black Room Damnation. And they can turn it into, like, Iron Warriors to remove rerolls, or Creations of Bile to make it fight on death. So they can kind of artificially make it harder to kill. It has Mark of Tzeentch, so it ignores the first failed saving throw every turn as well. So it just gets really tough to kill. And then I think they have Raptors here, because they probably have the Relic to push Obsec to the Raptors, and then they can use those to trade for objectives. You can also, if you want to use the... whatever the switch sub-faction ability strat is, you can use that on the Raptors, and they can turn them into Red Corsairs, and they advance in charge, which is pretty cool. Cloak of Conquest, I believe, is the relic to give objective secured to units. So, pretty good stuff. Although I think it's an aura. Is that right? It shows how much I played with my one game against Black Legion. But I definitely think Black Legion had an interesting time with the new codex, because I think when they came out, everyone was like, oh, Black Legion's going to be the only playable sub-faction because it has Abaddon in it, and his abilities are better on Black Legion models. But then you didn't have any of the other support that the other sub-factions had, that Abaddon would just sort of add to. And Cloak of Conquest. It is an aura to grant objective secrets. You do need to have the Cloak of Conquest guy sort of follow along with the rest of the team. But everyone was Black Legion, it was Word Bearers everyone was talking about, but it turns out Emperor's Children and Creations of Bile are the two standouts. But Black Legion's still good. They feel like they have less defense against like good damage. They're kind of they feel a lot more reliant on the Terminator brick surviving than other sub-factions do. Because other sub-factions can fall back on other units. But those guys are like, well, if my Terminator brick gets mortal wounded to death, I have very little defense against it. Especially in Mark of Tzeentch, because you can't give them the damage ignore roll from Mark of Slaanesh. They're like, well, I hope my Raptors get there. Nope. Greater Demons struggle into mass shooting? Yeah. Bellicor to 5 wounds with the unit of Vanguard. Yeah, Bellicor's like, take this, idiots. I'm -1 to be wounded. They're like, enriched rounds, bro. Get ready. Yeah, that's disgusting. Stupid Vanguard. Get out of here, Vanguard. I played a game against Vanguard. My opponent forgot to use Solar Flare on them, but it was back when... It was the first game I played against the new Adeptus Mechanicus Codex when they first came out. And I kept offering my opponent like the take back, because he'd be like, oh, I forgot to Solar Flare again. I was like, do you want to? Like, it doesn't really matter. You're going to beat me anyway. And he was like, no, it's fine. I'll just stack like every +3 range buff on one unit and shoot enriched rounds. Like +2 AP enriched rounds, radium carbine shots like 30 inches downrange. Disgusting. Oh my god. Grimdark 10 Grand Tournament. We did have Tyranids in first place. A tie for the finals between Tyranids and Leagues of Votan. Territorial Instincts Jormungandr. It's been an interesting ride, chat, because I think Leviathan has almost entirely fallen off from Tyranids post FAQ. I'm still playing a Leviathan list, but I'm kind of regretting it. That's what I'm playing tomorrow, actually, is Leviathan with the Termagant brick. But it feels like the rest of the Tyranid community has fallen into two camps. It's either a Lurk Biomorphology subfac, so you can get Territorial Instincts, which gives all the monsters objectives secured, and the big monsters count as 5 models, or you play High Fleet Kraken. And the High Fleet Kraken lists, I think, end up being very terrain dependent, but I think the Territorial Instinct lists are a little bit more terrain agnostic. But I don't know if their win rate's going to be quite as high. We'll see. But it's interesting that it's switching between Behemoth and Jormungandr, because I think both of those see a lot of play. I really like the Behemoth list, actually. I think Brad Chester's Behemoth list from last week was really cool. It was relying really heavily on Raveners to give it more speed, which I think was really fun. This one in particular, we have a Shard Gullet Hive Tyrant, so the big 5 damage gun. 1 Neurothrope, 3 Tyrant Guard, some Termagants to fill out troops, some Zoanthropes, good stuff. And then a second Venom Cannon Hive Tyrant. Whoa, we are all in on those OBSEC boys. We have a Turbigon with Maw Claws and Adaptive Biology, so gives it full rerolls to wounds. So you don't have to pay for rerolls to wounds, which is kind of nice. Turbigon is a little slappy if you engage it in melee if it doesn't have any upgrades. There is a combo. Adaptive Biology I like because it has so many wounds. Once you get through all of the Termagants, although we don't have big units of Termagants in this list, so the Termagon's just standing there. Okay, that's interesting. Huh. There's 2 units of 10 Termagants, and then you can spawn 1 more. So there's 3 units of 10, but they don't protect the Termagon. You need a unit of 15 plus. So it's just getting shot at, which I guess is fine if it has Adaptive Biology. It doesn't feel worth 215 points if it's just being shot at, because I think it just dies. But to each their own. But there is a build, if you're not worried about the survivability, if you take Heightened Reflexes on it. Or Heightened Senses, so you can give it rerolls to hit, and then Maw Claws gives it rerolls to win. It's just full rerolls. All of its attacks, which is very cool. Having played against it, makes that Turbigon legitimately scary in melee. There's a Mawloc in this list. Very good for stealing objectives, because you can place them on objectives if you telegraph it a turn early. Parasite of Mortrax for another 5 model OBSEC unit. Some Biovores. 2 Harpies, excuse me. 1 is a Synapse creature. And 2 Sporocysts. That's mostly to give Synaptic Imperatives to the other Harpy if they both fly forward into your opponent's army. I haven't been super... People are like, I don't know, there's so many guns in the meta right now that I feel like Harpies are a little dangerous. I did play Harpy on stream last week. I got immediately killed by Magna Rail Cannons. And then the Sporocysts. So we must have been playing in a format where the Sporocysts could place correctly. Daniel Turcha was the runner-up there with Leagues of Votan. That is Ymir Conglomerate, so we get the extra range, +1 AP and half range, or +1 AP, yeah, against stuff with Judgment tokens on it, and the Invuln saves. 1 Grimnir, 1 High Khal, 3 units of Hearthkin Warriors with Magna Rail Rifles and Medipacks, so we can regenerate those Magna Rail Rifles when they go down. 2 units of 5 Chthonian Berserks, 2 units of Hearthguard. 2 units of Hearthguard, hot damn! Teleport crests on them so they can use site-to-site transport to jump them around, but nobody's taking Warp Strike. I wonder if we're out of pre-game selections. Alongside 2 units of 4 Hernkin Pioneers and 2 Sagittors. Now, cool thing about the Sagittors you can do that I watched happen in a game recently is that you can take a unit of Hearthkin Warriors and assign it to the Sagittors. So it splits into 2 units of 5, and then each of them embark into the Sagittors, and then the Sagittors deploy and split. So when those Hearthkin Warriors disembark, they just remain as units of 5. It just combat squads your units. But you then, on turn 1, you just disembark those units and have them go do whatever you want, and then the Chthonian Berserks get into the Sagittors. And then you have however combination you want to allocate the special units in the Hernkin Warrior Squad. You can use the Magna Rail Rifle as like a backline objective holder and some fire support. If you want the Metapack back there, it's very resilient against counter shooting, especially if it's really far away. Or you can use the Metapack and then 5 like regular guys to just run up and be kind of annoying to kill in a forward objective. Depends on the mission. But kind of like that. It's pretty fun. Make Harry Dan great again? 100% chat. Please, God, make Harry Dan great again. I was feeling kind of I don't know, listless, I guess, about Tyranid lists. And I was like, I wonder if I should just rock Harridan for an RTT or something one time. Just pull him out, see what I can do with this big useless idiot that is Harridan. Poor guy. They removed basically every synergy with them. I think you can make him transhuman, I guess. You can give him like a 6-up damage ignore with Catalyst. Whatever. Whatever. And he gets imperatives, which is fine. Alright, we have a Masterful Shots Swift Strikes list. So that's the advance and counter stationary plus ignore cover on your shooting. Farseer Skyrunner, 1 unit of 10 Howling, Dire Avengers, some Howling Banshees, 3 units of Swooping Hawks. Hot damn, chat. Whoa. I guess with the ruling that they can advance and then use their battle focus after they advance, they go super far with an advance roll and then can jump all the way back using that Swift Strikes. 3 Vipers, and then a patrol detachment with Behareth, a Farseer, some Rangers, 1 more unit of Howling Banshees, 1 more unit of Striking Scorpions, some Crushing Blows, 2 units of Shroud Runners, probably for the same reason, and a Webway Gate. What do you think we're putting in the Webway Gate here, chat? 10 Dire Avengers are a pretty good drop. And then you can drop the little guys out. And with Behareth ends up being like a really strong piece to hold down the Webway Gate for Hidden Path. So as long as your terrain setup allows you to place the Webway Gate consistently at 6 inches outside your deployment zone, Behareth can continuously teleport back to it. And he's so difficult to kill in 1 turn. Most armies can't do it, because you have to do damage in 2 separate phases and then hope he doesn't 4-up to regenerate. So sometimes you have to do damage in every single phase of the game. So he basically is hard enough to kill that most players won't try, and if they don't try to kill him, he just continuously automatically holds the Webway Gate, and you get 15 on your Hidden Path, which is pretty strong. Turns out getting 15 on a secondary is pretty sweet. We have some Necrons going on. Looks like it is it's a vehicle list. So it is running Relentlessly Expansionist Eternal Conquerors. But it has 3 Locust Heavy Destroyers, 2 units of 3 Canoptic Wraiths with Claws, and then 3 Tesseract Arcs. The Forge World Donut. You very rarely see these anymore. That was a real 8th edition star, was the Tesseract Arc. Not so much anymore. They have a real short range gun that has a bunch of different firing modes that can all do pretty cool stuff. It has a flamer. It has a big, huge damage flamer, if I remember correctly, that automatically hits. And then a Vanguard detachment with a Chronomancer, 2 units of 16 Flayed Ones, 2 units of 3 Scorpec Destroyers, 1 unit of Tomb Blades, and the Silent King. So we have a lot of shooting between the Heavy Destroyers and the Tesseract Arcs. And that's followed up by a ton of melee between the Flayed Ones, the Scorpecs, and the Canoptic Wraiths. It's a pretty well-rounded list. Very fast as well. And then the one that everyone's excited about, this is Bilbo Goranson playing Genestealer Cults. This is a custom cult, but it's a little different than the ones that we normally see. This one's bringing Accustomed to Turmoil, so that is the Stalwart effect, can only be wounded on 3+. Industrial Affinity, so ignore hit penalties using industrial weapons. Most importantly, I think in this list is Seismic Cannons. And then Deep Supplies, which I had to look up, but one is, it gives you a Salamander's reroll, so 1 wound reroll every time you shoot or fight with the unit. So that's fun. We have a Magus, a Patriarch. Interestingly, the Patriarch has Unwilling Orb, so the board-wide deny. And Preternatural Speed, so it gets Strike First and reroll hit rolls. Exacting Planner on the Primus, which we saw in play over the weekend at Everwinter. In the 2 games that we streamed Genestealer Cult, it gives you a once per game, if you use the Proficient Planning, or the Primus's ability, the Exacting Planner. For that turn, using your command phase, it lets the Primus hand out his hit rolls of 1 twice to any unit, not just core units. So you typically have that for the pre-game move Genestealer, big Genestealer brick. So you can give out your buffs to those guys. Pretty sweet. This is just a casual 6 units of Neophyte, Acolyte and Neophyte hybrids, 2 units of Acolytes. This is a Oh, this is a brigade, chat. I didn't even notice. I was like, this is a lot of troops options. This is a whole brigade. So 3 HQ slots, fills out the minimum for a brigade. And then 2 units of Acolyte hybrids. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units. 7 units of Neophyte hybrids to fill out our 9 units. And each of those Neophyte hybrid squads coming in with shotguns and 2 seismic cannons. So the seismic cannon's going to be popping out from wherever. They count as moving, but they ignore the hit modifier thanks to industrial affinity, and then they each get a wound reroll. So that's a ton of 2 damage shooting with floating rerolls available. Each of the seismic cannons, what do they fire? 3 shots with their 2 damage profiles? Okay. I'm gonna verify real quick here. Yeah, that seismic cannon, 3 shots, 24-inch range, strength 6, AP2, 2 damage. With a floating wound reroll. And then they can drop 6 shots if they want to shoot into infantry at 1 damage. We have a Kelomorph, the Nexus with Cranial Inlay to get the CP back. Piercer and Genestealers, they came from below for the pregame move, so they move 9 inches before the first battle round. And then they can advance and charge innately, which is a rule that regular Genestealers should have. I'll die on that hill. And then, yeah, they can go blow something up. Piercer and Genestealers, solid gold. A Reductus Saboteur. This is such a cute include as well. It has lying in wait, so it can drop within 3 inches of you, or outside 3 inches of you. Just can't charge that turn. Doesn't really matter. The Reductus melee, not good. But it has also Oppressor's Bane, so the pistol that shoots the 2 damage shot counts you as exposed and crossfired, so you get +1 to hit and +1 to wound with the pistol. You could also, and I assume it is pistol keyworded. Sometimes those relics are not. I'm gonna have to double check here. I think the reason that it has, yeah, it's a pistol weapon. I think the reason that it has that proficient planning is so that we can set up crossfire with it, and we can use demolition charges when it comes out of reserve. But the Reductus Saboteur has a ton of different options to fire weapons. It can either throw the demo charges, it can throw regular grenades. It has a detonated explosive that's range 24, and then also it gets the 15-inch pistol attack. So that's pretty fun. A Sanctus in that detachment to fill out the elite slot, and then 3 units of Adelan Jackals, just 3 Adelan Jackals apiece to fill out the required HQ, and 3 Goliath Rock Grinders, again with seismic cannon, so again ignoring the penalty, getting the wound reroll on all those 2 damage shots, or the multi-damage shots, the multi-damage profile from those guys. Those are heavy seismic cannons. I think they fire 3 damage to fill out heavy support. This list is super cool, chat. What a sick list. Just totally off the wall, too. Nobody expects like the Genestealer Cult Horde list to come out of nowhere. But there you go. There they are with an X and 1. First Degree GT Mallorca, won by Chaos Demons. I think that's just sort of normal Chaos Demon stuff. Bellicor, Lord of Change, 2 units of Flamers, and then a patrol detachment with Bloodthirster. Scarbrand. Scarbrand's always showing up. Some Flesh Hounds to get around Psychic Interrogation. Cool. That's a demon list. And then we have one Heretic Astartes. This list had, interestingly, this whole event just had tons of draws. I think it used WTC scoring, which, to be fair, and I believe Grimdark 10 also used WTC scoring, which is why we saw a draw in the finals. And honestly, chat, if you're running a 1v1 competitive 40k event, do not run WTC scoring. What are you doing? Are you mad? You're going to get nothing but draws, and that's what happened. Yeah, between these 2 events, the top 8 players had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 draws. Come on. Get good WTC scoring. I understand WTC scoring in a team event. It makes sense to me. The fact that it draws so often is a little bit frustrating. But it is what it is. Like, if they don't want to change it, they don't want to change it. But don't run it in a singleton event. That's ridiculous. It's so silly. You just look silly. This is an Emperor's Children list. It does Emperor's Children things. And apparently draws a bunch of times. With a 1,000 Suns list. In 3rd place. Incredible. Good stuff. Münsterland Encounter had Chaos Demons at number 1. This one is a little bit more of a heavy focus on the infantry. It has a Fate Skimmer, Bloodthirster, Lord of Change, and a Transweaver. Love that the Lord of Change is coming back in. That guy's so good. 3 units of 10 Bloodletters, 1 unit of 10 Demonettes, 1 unit of 10 Pink Horrors, a Beast of Nurgle. Hell yeah. If your opponent only has a single heavy ranged attack, your Beast of Nurgle could kind of just like chill in the back and be like, you probably don't one-shot me. If you don't one-shot me in one turn, I'll survive. That's fine. You save a CP reroll for that guy to save his on his demonic save. He eats like 1-2 last cannons, doesn't even kill him, and then just heals back to full. Whatever. Yeah, that seems fine. It's a little expensive, 80 points for a backline objective holder. But you could also just like, throw it in your opponent's face if they don't deal damage in like enough phases to kill it in 1 turn so it heals back. Seems pretty okay. Beast of Nurgle meta OP, yeah. And if anything, Darktide has taught me, you have to shoot it in the back. So as long as you don't turn your Beast of Nurgle around, it takes way less damage, like 10% damage. And it corrupts you. Is what I know, is what I've heard in my experience. And then we got 3 Ace of Flamers. Good stuff. Wolf on Mibu with Heretic Astartes. Wolf on Mibu playing something a little bit different though. Iron Warriors. So the no reroll, ignore cover lords over here with 2 Disco Lords. One of them with Flames of Spite for those delicious mortal wounds and rerolls. The other one with Unyielding Metal, which I'm going to have to look up, chat. Wolf on Mibu. Leave it to Wolf on Mibu to come out of the woodwork with some wild Chaos Space Marine jank. Oh. It's an Iron Warriors ability. I have to look in the Iron Warriors section. It's +1 toughness, so I think it goes to toughness 7 and then has a 5+ damage ignore. So that makes it a little bit tougher to kill. All right, I'll buy it. You can also -1 damage them, right? Because they're demon engines. So that makes them tough to kill. You can't reroll against it, so the +1 toughness matters a lot. And then they slowly heal if you don't kill them. So yeah, I'll buy it. All right, fair enough. Plus Mark of Zinj, so it automatically ignores one of those failed saves as well. Warpsmith in there with Hatred Incarnate. 3 units of cultist mobs, 2 decimators with Soulburner petards. One has a melee weapon. 2 units of Khorne berserkers, 2 units of Rubric marines, and 2 chaos land raiders. Oh yeah. I wonder if one. It looks like we're gonna be putting the elite infantry inside the land raiders. I don't know. There are warp flamers there. So I do wonder if they split between the Land Raiders, sort of depending on what you need. Although I wouldn't be too shocked if you put 1 Berserker, 1 Rubric Marine in each Land Raider. I can't imagine the animosity in that Land Raider, right? Between Thousand Suns and World Eaters and the cramped confines of 1 Land Raider, and they're just like staring at each other. It's like Gwort Bears muttering epithets about wizards or whatever. Nurgle Mat, 9 beats of Nurgle every game? Alright, I'll believe it when I see a Nurgle Mat. Pixar didn't happen. Get on there. The T9 Land Raiders with no rerolls is legitimately good, though. Those things are hard to kill. You don't really... I don't think you... It's like kind of been internalized, at least personally, that like toughness 8 is the highest toughness, right? Outside of weird corner cases, that doesn't really matter. Toughness 8 is where things end up. So if you're shooting an anti-tank weapon that's strength 9 or higher, you wound everything on 3s. And that's just how it works. And then the T9 Land Raider came out, and you're just like, well, I have to reconsider everything I've ever thought about the world. You also had like big beat sticks who were strength 16, and they would wound everything on 2s. Now they don't. Now they wound some things on 3s. Brutal. Plus T8 wounds them on 5s, or strength 8, excuse me, wounds them on 5s, which is wild. Just gets crazy. Artur Gütler with Tau Empire. Looks like some Farsight Enclaves do have Commander Farsight make an appearance. An Enforcer Battlesuit with the Bagel Hunter plate and Precision of the Hunter. What are we running? Thermoneutronic Projector. So the Punchy Flamer. 1 Cyclic Ion Blaster, 1 Plasma Rifle, 1 Shield Generator. Nice. Does the Bagel Hunter plate replace a shield generator in town? Am I weird for asking this? Let me tell you, chat, sometimes I feel like a Bagel Hunter plate in the morning. Oh no, it's in addition. It gives you a damage ignore, not an invulnerable save. My bad. But it gives you +1 invulnerable, or +1 armor save. So you go to a 1+. Doesn't really feel like you need a shield generator at that point. Unless against AP4. I guess if you're trying to tank like a Hive Tyrant or something, that makes sense. AP3 feels like where things end up though, because it's, I guess people are running AP4 to hit through Terminator bricks. Because then AP4 puts them on a 5+. Most of the time. But so much stuff is, 2+ Armor of Contempt, 4+ Invuln. That beyond AP3 feels a little unnecessary, but I don't know. We have, let's see, 3 units of Crew Carnivores, a Firesight Marksman with the Talisman of Arthas Moloch, so he gets the Deny. 2 Ghost Guild Battlesuits. I love Ghost Guild Battlesuits. I wish people played more of them, but they're a little weird. It's a little bit of a strange unit. 1 unit of Stealth Battlesuits with 2 Marker Drones. No Homing Beacon on them. I guess we're not taking any Crisis. Or Riptides. Huh? Okay. Alright. I respect it. 2 individual Piranhas with burst cannons. 3 Hammerhead gunships with rail guns. And 2 Sunshark bombers. So we are very much a gun line today, it looks like. Not using any of those... who needs those full reroll stratagems on Farsight Enclaves? Just shoot with rail guns again. Pew, pew, pew. Exclamation point list in chat will get you to the website chat. It's also in the video description. De Winterwa. We had Tau Empire once again. This is also Farsight Enclaves. Similar build, but with this time taking actually the Crisis Battlesuits. So this one was 2 Riptide and a Cold Star Commander. The Exemplar of the Kauyon and 1 detachment, 2 Sunshark Bombers, 2 units of Crisis, 1 of 5 Battlesuits, the other one 2 Crisis Bodyguards. In the Patrol Detachment. That one had Farsight. Basically the same Enforcer Commander build. It sounds like Farsight Enclaves players have found their Enforcer Commander. And 10 Kroot. Fair enough. Let's talk about some Leagues of Votan, chat. I'm not going to talk about the Tzeentch list. We don't need to do that. Everybody knows what the Tzeentch list looks like. There's going to be 5 to 6 units of Rubric Marines, 3 units of Flamers, whatever. Get good. Leagues of Votan. This is an interesting list. So this is also Ymir Conglomerate, it looks like. It does say Ymir Patrol on the top there, so I imagine that means it's a Ymir Conglomerate Detachment. 1 Call with Teleport Crest. 10 Hearthkin Warriors. 2 units of 6 Pioneers. With double heavy weapons. 2 Scanners. All the upgrades on those guys. And 2 Land Fortresses. Oh my god. The second Patrol Detachment is another Land Fortress. Oh my god. 1 unit of 10 Hearthkin Warriors, 5 Chthonian Berserks. And a Brokir Forge Master with Master Armorer. So he's going to be able to repair those Land Fortresses for 3. I think for 3 plus his helpers, right? So 5. Plus he automatically passes 1 saving throw per turn. So he basically removes 2 attacks from one of those Land Fortresses every turn. You pin your opponent into their side of the table with the Hernkin Pioneers. You probably give up the Hernkin Pioneers. Who cares after 2 or 3 runs of shooting at them with 3 Hecaton Land Fortresses? They probably don't have much remaining, especially since all the little guns in the Land Fortresses are getting plus 4 inches of range from the Ymir Conglomerate sub-faction ability. Yeah, get all aboard, chat. Whoop, whoop. We are making the land train. Oh my god. I think it was only a matter of time before Leagues of Votan slowly oriented in that direction. And yeah, Land Fortresses, chat, pretty good. They are running the Heavy Conversion Beamer as well. So they get access to the Mortal Wound stratagem when they're shooting with that. Although you have to watch out now that you hit your own models with the Conversion Beamer. Sometimes, depends on who you ask. I certainly wouldn't rule that you hit your own models because that's not how that works. But it is what it is. Because of weird Weird and janky FAQs. No double fortress chat. That is 3 fortresses right there. That is triple fortress. Men's a Masquerade. I think this is a relatively small event. I think maybe 21 players or something, but it had a tie in the finals for two 4-0-1s between Heretic Astartes. This is another Blank Legion. Has Dean here nicknamed all of his characters? No, just one. Oh, no, he's done it, yeah. The Dark Apostle is Dapo. The Master of Possession is Moppy. The Sorcerer is Saucy. Oh, that's good. Those are good. Dapo because it's Dark Apostle. Master of Possession because it's Master of Possession, MOP. It makes total sense to me. Very similar to the list we looked at earlier. Not a lot of Legionaries, it looks like. This formatting is a little bit funny. It looks like 1 unit cultists, 2 unit cultists, 1 unit of Legionaries. Just 1 unit of Legionaries, it looks like. Interesting. And then the big Terminator brick. 3 Decimators with Soulburner Petards. Okay, fair enough. I think we are slowly moving towards more mortal wounds, please. Give me those soul burners. 2 units of Raptors, excuse me. 1 Chaos Rhino. Probably put those Legionaries in. And Abydone, the Despoiler. Chaos Demons from Matt Morrisoli. A bit of a different list. 1 Bloodthirster with Brazen Hide, so the 5+ damage ignore. 2 Change Casters. 30 Demonettes, 3 units of 10. 15 Flamers, 3 units of 5. Some Nurglings for Recover the Relics. A unit of Seekers. That gives you a little bit of early game pressure. They're tough to kill, especially in melee for their points cost. So they're kind of just annoying. And then we have a Corn Detachment with Scarbrand and 2 units of 10 Bloodletters. Scarbrand sees so much play right now. Oh my god, it's so crazy. I honestly, when the book came out, I wouldn't have considered running Scarbrand without Be'lakor, but everybody's having success with old Scarby. So fair enough. Let's see, Rubicon GT. This was a small event. I think this was maybe like 19 players. It didn't have an undefeated. It has an X and 1 because it was so small. But Imperial Knights list, running House Tyrannus, which is Imperial Knights have so many sub-factions. I can't keep them all straight. House Tyrannus. So we get a 6+ damage ignore against mortal wounds, and they get the either they get to auto explode, or excuse me, not explode. They get to set up on the regenerate once they get killed. So 2 Armiger Warglaves, 3 more Armiger Warglaves, and 3 Helmerins, 1 with Bastard's Helm. Excuse me, 2 Helmerins, 1 with Bastard's Helm. A Crusader, Paladin. That's it. Okay, fair enough. So 5 Warglaves, 2 Helmerins, and 2 big boys. Nice. Good job, Imperial Knights. Keep on keeping on. Keep doing your thing. Why are all Imperial Knights using Lay Low the Tyrants? Let's see. That's a code oath, right? So Lay Low the Tyrants, giving you a hit roll and or wound roll ability. So that is especially for low model count armies, or high, like MSU armies, so high unit count below model count. That's one of the most powerful sub-faction abilities in the game. So the fact that any sub-faction in Imperial Knights can take it is like sort of wild. And then once you get the Virtuous ability, you can auto-pass saving throws, which gets really obnoxious, or you 6-up saving throws. So if you take them on your invulnerable save, then you auto-pass. Otherwise, you need to get hit by AP3. AP3 or lower. But also you can auto-wound advance rolls and stuff like that. Yeah, it's sort of wildly powerful if you can get to Virtuous, obviously. Yeah. I think it is. It is basically that good. Yeah. There are a lot of factions in the game, or sub-factions in the game, that are dominant within their army because of that exact ability, and Knights get it on everyone. So you're just basically always going to take that. It's also pretty easy to gain honor points from it, especially if your opponent has like vehicles that you can shoot at. I guess you have to kill them with melee attacks. It's a little bit tough, but it's tough to lose points on it because usually you'll kill 2 units a turn. But usually, I think their other one, which is what, Yield No Ground. Oh, excuse me, Defend the Realm. Yield No Ground, I think, is the secondary objective. Whatever. That one, typically you will... That one's so hard to lose points on and easy to gain points on. So even if your opponent like null deploys you, you're not gonna lose. You're not gonna become dishonored anytime soon, because all you have to do is put an armature on an objective every turn. Especially if your opponent kills you off an objective, so you don't like 12 them. Then you just like put another armature back on that objective, and you get your point back. Which feels good. So I think the generating command points is obviously also super awesome, but I think there's a synergy between the two, because one of them, if your opponent's hiding, they're probably not going to stop you from taking their objectives, and if you take their objectives, you're going to get honor points regardless of whether or not you kill them. So there's like a synergy there. And that's what I have to say about that. All right, we're on to Everwinter. So I streamed, obviously, this whole event. You can watch all 5 games over on the live section of the channel. Highly recommend that you do. The finals is pretty cool. The finals is a very cool game. Some dice happened. The Inari lost the Incarn really early. I won't give it away. You should watch the game. It was fun. The semifinals game was also super good as well. Day 1, we saw some really fun and interesting matchups. But yeah, the semifinals and finals games were both like peak 40K. Anyway, let's go down the list. We'll talk about everybody. Daniel Wolmuth with Inari. Sibes 55 just recently decided to start playing 40K. Want to say the videos are helpful? Sibes, welcome to the community. I'm glad that the videos have been helpful. And I hope you keep watching them. And I hope that you have a good time over here. We got plenty more videos coming, so you can learn so much about Warhammer 40,000. Anyway, talking about some Inari. So we have the Incarn, a Farseer Skyrunner with the Mark of the Incomparable Hunter and Kurnos Bow Wombo combo. So every successful wound roll is a mortal wound thanks to Kurnos' bow. If that wound roll is a 6, Mark of the Incomparable Hunter kicks in, does another mortal wound on top. So you can be doing, if you have a 6 on a Strands of Fate, if you have a automatic wound roll, on Strands of Fate, which is not a 6, a 6 is a saving throw, then it counts as a 6, so it will trigger Mark of the Incomparable Hunter and the Kurnos Bow, and you'll do 2 mortal wounds automatically. No dice involved, which is pretty fun. So, is it worth 2 CP? I don't know, but I think Daniel likes to build. Part of the strength of Inari is that you lose so much early. As long as you can get work out of your characters, and especially unit leaders, because you want to keep those alive as long as possible, then your army sort of retains value as the game goes on. So your characters doing additional damage certainly helps. Plus you have the Incarn, who doesn't take any CP to run, so that's pretty fun. 2 units of Rangers, 1 Harlequin troop, 10 models, and a unit of Witches. Mostly that's all just there for objective secured. Little cheap objective secured friends. We have 2 Howling Banshee units, one with Crone Scream, the other one with Piercing Strikes. So again, we're basically trying to get work out of the Exarchs in those units, because if they lose models before the Exarch goes down, they're just going to pull. Sometimes you take wounds on the Exarch early so that you can keep your model count, but Inari doesn't care about that. All they basically want to do is have them lose models so that the Exarch gets +1 to hit, thanks to the Inari subfaction ability, and then they go absolutely ham. So Striking Scorpions with Crushing Blows, Howling Banshees with Piercing Strikes, Howling Banshees with Chrome Scream. Although to be fair, those 3 units always show up in every Eldari list, so that's not like particularly Inari specific, but it's certainly feels like that. 1 unit of 3 Warlock Skyrunners, another unit of 2 Warlocks with Quicken, big unit of Wind Riders, 5 Scatter Lasers on that one, some Swooping Hawks, some Shining Spears with the Heartstrike Paragon Saber Wombo combo. We've got a Warwalker, Behareth, and the Webway Gate. Behareth, you obviously can't take in a Inari detachment because you can't take Phoenix Lords, but you can take them in a separate detachment. And because they're all Eldari, it all works together. The Webway Gate, they did rule that the Webway Gate doesn't break Strands of Fate, doesn't break secondary objectives, and can be placed within 3 inches of terrain as long as it's not within 3 inches of the vertical elements of terrain. So there's a lot of work you got to do to make the Webway Gate highly competitive, but once you do, it is a very good pick, especially since it gives you such like a huge footprint to grab with objective security units to score Hidden Path on. So especially with like Behareth in that list, he becomes excellent at that. There's also, for those who haven't played against Inari before, every time a unit's destroyed, the Incarn gets to be placed next to their position, and the Incarn is an absolute melee beatstick. So a lot of times you'll feed units into the Webway Gate to score Hidden Path, and your opponent extends to kill them to try to deny Hidden Path, and either the Incarn can teleport there to score Hidden Path or to punish them for overextending. And that came up, I think, a couple times over the tournament. It's very much a sort of risk and reward style of game plan, but it's very good once it works out. Casey Glynn, who I've played, I think, many times, at least in events, in games that I've talked about, I've played many times on Tactical Tuesdays. We have a Blood Angels list, Lamarties. I think this is going to be Death Company predominantly. Oh, no, it's not. Lamarties just chilling there, I guess. He has Death Company keyworded, right? So he scores your Forlorn Fury? Or your Fury of the Lost, excuse me? Am I misremembering that? Where you at, Lamarties? Oh yeah, he is. Okay. Yeah, so he'll score your Fury of the Lost. Right? I've definitely looked this up before, probably on stream. So if somebody's screaming in chat and correcting me, then I apologize readily. But I don't know, I feel like I should know that. Fury of the Lost. A Death Company unit from your army, if it was destroyed, you get, if you destroyed an enemy unit, if it was destroyed, you get 1. Okay, yeah. So Lamarties does score you all your Death Company stuff. I'm sorry about that, chat. So we have 2 units of Death Company, 1 with Power Swords, 1 with Thunder Hammers. Interesting, they're taking Power Swords, not Chain Swords. Paying a little extra points for those guys, but they get extra AP, which is nice. Plus Lamarties, so we have 3 options to be scoring on Fury of the Lost. So if any of them kill any enemy units, you get 3 points. If any of them die, you get 1 point. If you can repeat that 3 times, because there are 3 units of Death Company keyworded models, you'll get 12. If your opponent ever leaves 1 Death Company unit alive to swing again, you'll probably get 15, which is pretty good. Gives you a pretty solid secondary. Plus, Death Company are just really strong. They're good in melee. You get Forlorn Fury to pregame move them. It's just all good. Sanguinary Ancient with Soul Warden and Wrath Ball for the additional movement on nearby units. 3 units of Sanguinary Guard. Looks like 2 of 7. Is that right? 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep, 1 of 5. A mix of axes and swords. Controlled attachment with Dante as the Warlord. A Sanguinary Priest with Rites of War. I think that's all pretty standard stuff. There's the 3rd unit of Death Company Marines. Excuse me, chat. I totally missed it. So it is triple Death Company and Lamarties. Hot damn. We're all in on Fury of the Lost. Okay. Fair enough. 1 Scout Squad in a Landspeeder Storm. Mostly that's there to get... You can get action secondaries with them. You can get Retrieve Neckwind data. You can get banners maybe sometimes. But you also get... Relentless Assault. You want to get more units in your opponent's deployment zone than they have in your deployment zone by the end of your turn, and that's really easy to do with the Landspeeder Storm, because the Landspeeder Storm can disembark the scouts after it moves. So it moves 16 inches, disembarks the scouts 3, they advance probably 9 or 10 because they get +1 to advance, and so you basically go from your deployment zone directly into their deployment zone with the scout unit. It used to be done with, or you used to take Void's men-at-arms with that, but because they had Warrant of Trade that let them embark in the Landspeeder Storm, but that was removed in the most recent version of the Void's men-at-arms datasheet, which is sad. We have a Whirlwind for the Fight Last stratagem suppressing fire, and we have an Eliminator squad just to help out. Pretty classic Blood Angels stuff. I wonder how many of these Blood Angels lists are going to look similar to that. If they are identical, we're going to skip them. Sam O'Brien with Tau Empire. This is a Farsight Enclaves list. 1 unit of Bodyguards, Crude Hounds, a Crude Shaper with Advanced EM Scrambler. That's cool. So you can turn off aura abilities within 6, but most importantly, they also give you a 12-inch no deep strike aura. So for 25 points and 1 CP, you can basically anti-deep strike the entire backline of your objective. This was US Open terrain layouts as well. So you had those big 12-inch by 12-inch bricks of line of sight blocking. If you put the Shaper exactly behind one of those, it's basically enough to screen out that entire corner. So you can't, it's difficult to place in the terrain, and you can't place anywhere behind the terrain with the Crude Shaper standing there in the way, which is pretty good. Commander Farsight, Cold Star Commander with Precision of the Hunter. 2 AFPs, a high output burst cannon, and a DeWalt version 02 advanced burst cannon. So just high volume on that Cold Star Commander. Very cool. Not the exact same Enforcer Commander we just saw in the other 2 Tau lists. 10 Crude Carnivores, 1 big unit of Crisis Battlesuits with Cyclic Ion, burst cannons, and plasma rifles, as well as target locks. Mostly to use the Drop Zone Clear strat, I imagine. 2 units of Crude Hounds, 2 Sunshark Bombers, and a second patrol detachment. This one with an exemplar of the Kauyon Enforcer Commander. The best thing about the Enforcer Commander is they give the other commanders, the other Crisis, objective secured as well, so you can use them to sort of hold down your back objectives. Cyclic Ion Blaster, Missile Pod, and Plasma Rifle, so alongside the Thermoneutronic Projector Flamer. Interesting. So a little bit longer range, although we have that Flamer, so for some close range punch as well, and 2 units of 3 battle suits. Hyped when you got to Everwinter and it was US Open terrain because you had no practice on the terrain shown in their player pack. What did they show in their player pack? Did they show something different? Really? I hope we could find out, right? I know there is a I don't want to say like any TC terrain set because it's mostly they do have a player pack. It's mostly just one TO who runs them. Let's see if I can find there. Oh yeah, here we go. So this is I've shown pictures of this before. This is Carol Wilmuth, who runs a ton of tournaments down here, and this is her like personal terrain. She makes all the terrain for her events, and it looks gorgeous. But yeah, she has her own like very specific layouts she uses. They're kind of UKTC adjacent, but they are very weird. And there are some situations where you just like hit like a layout where you just get destroyed because it's a bad table edge or whatever for the terrain that you're setting up on. A little bit less so for UKTC or for US Open. So it looks like they were using a mix actually, which I did see. I did see that there were probably maybe about 1/3 of the tables were using that. I don't know what you call that format of terrain, but I think about 1/3 of the tables were using those. It was more like half the tables use US Open. That's fair. Yeah, I have a biased view because I only saw the stream table and that was US Open. But yeah, I don't know. I think there's benefits and positives, or upsides and downsides to all of these different types of terrain for sure. Being US Open, I think benefits like the armies like Blood Angels and Inari. The lighter terrain certainly benefits Tau, like a high maneuverability. In the final round, though, I did a little bit of a walk-by during stream of this. Sam O'Brien, who we just talked about, played Dean Giannotti playing Tyranids, and they tied in the final game. It sounded like the Tyranids were getting absolutely destroyed by Tau, but Dean was able to play it out and ended up sort of making, I think, or getting Sam to make an unforced error that allowed him to get back in the game and bring it back to a draw, which sounds like an absolutely crazy game. I would love to have streamed that. I think that would have been absolutely wild. But this is another, again, Lurk Biomorphology sub-faction, Highfleet Jormungandr. So we're playing all the big shooty boys with the objective secured. This is Tyrant Guard, Zoanthropes in a patrol detachment with a Neurothrope and a Winged Hive Tyrant. Reaper of Obliterax on this guy. We also have 1 unit of Tyranid Warriors, 2 Tyrannofexes with Acid Sprays, one of them with Voracious Ammunition, so really like frontline Tyrannofexes. Alongside another Jormungandr detachment, the Shard Gullet Hive Tyrant, and another unit of Tyranid Warriors. 2 Carnifexes with Heavy Venom Cannons, a Moloch, for again that drop loop right on somebody's objective, and 5 Genestealers. Moloch placement's a little bit awkward if you have that EM Scrambler dude. Last but not least, we have Robin Roberts, who is playing Twisted Helix Genestealer Cult. We actually had Robin on the stream twice. Chat was like, saw a Genestealer Cult person who I think got him on round 2. Everyone was excited he won round 1. And they're like, we gotta get him on. And then he made it all the way to the finals. Ended up losing in a ridiculously close game to Inari. So yeah, go watch that game. It was freaking sweet. But this is a Twisted Helix detachment. And one thing about the event, I did talk to Robin, obviously, who's on stream twice, so we talked a little bit. And he said that there was a ruling in the event packet, which is true, can confirm, I had a copy, where anything that was set up on the table that turn cannot be placed back into reserve. And I think that was to prevent booster jet bouncing from Adeptus Mechanicus before that was eroded, and like Def Copta bouncing. But it also hits Back to the Shadows for Genestealer Cults. And he was like pretty upset about that, but he said instead of running a normal list like he would have that focuses on Acolyte hybrids, like making charges out of Deep Strike and then dropping back in, he instead just decided to run basically nothing but Pure Strange Genestealers. So, and he was like, I'm going to run Pure Strange Genestealers across the table at my opponent and hope for the best. And that is what he did. So he had an Acolyte Icon Ward, a Magus with the Unwilling Orb, a Exacting Planner Primus, so that is the give rerolls to anybody twice in one command phase of the game. 1 unit of Acolyte Hybrids with Hand Flamers, a big brick of Acolyte Hybrids, 10 with 4 heavy rock drills, 5 Hand Flamers, and then the leader just with a pistol, and then another unit of Acolyte Hybrids just with nothing to do actions. We also had a unit of 10 Metamorphs. These guys ended up usually in a transport early in the game. They had 10. They all had Hand Flamers, and then Metamorphs just being like pretty good at fighting. I think the interesting thing about Metamorphs in a transport is that usually people shoot the transport to death and then charge the stuff inside, but the Metamorphs fight on death. So they act like a Wolfen squad where they just like sit on an objective and require your opponent to trade with them for the objective. So they probably kill you, and the Metamorphs probably kill each other, especially since they're +1 strength thanks to Twisted Helix. We have a Kellermorph with Proficient Planning and Wormtooth rounds. And then the pièce de résistance in the detachment, 3 units of Pure Strange Genestealers, one of them with They Came From Below. Otherwise, just 30 Genestealy boys. Going to take all the dungarees off of the unsuspecting Imperial citizenry. 1 unit of Achilles Ridge Runners, with From Every Angle, so they get to Strategic Reserve on the first turn, so they can bounce. They can basically jump on essentially wherever they can get good shots in the first turn, which is very good at getting around the line of sight blockers on US open terrain. Big brick of Adelant Jackals. Robin actually used that to basically bunker all his characters, because he had 6 characters in the list. The Kellermorph, Acolyte Icon Board. Oh yeah, he has a Nexos, a Biophagus, Primus, Magus. Is that 7? Biophagus, Nexos, Acolyte Icon Board, Magus, Primus, Kellermorph. 6 characters. And he basically just had them all. The Adelant Jackals make a big ring, literally like ring the circle the wagons around the characters. So just like an impenetrable wall of difficult to kill guys. He had the Biophagus give them their 5+ damage ignore, which I think he did from. I guess he didn't pay for the upgrade on them. But the Biophagus can do an action to give them a 5+ damage ignore. They're -1 to be hit. The Icon Ward can regenerate them, and he would just sit behind that the entire game. And they had heavy stubbers on the Wolf Quads as well, so they could do a little bit of shooting. And then followed up by 3 Goliath trucks, mostly to carry around the Pure Strange Genestealers and the Metamorphs in. So basically what happened was that almost every game, he would put everything in line of sight blockers. His opponent would move forward. He went second, I think, both times on stream. Everything became a blip and then turned into, you know, the bottom of your opponent's movement phase. They all set up. So he would set up outside line of sight, and then one unit of Pure Strange Genestealers would move immediately to a position where they were still out of line of sight. Another one would be in a Goliath transport. They would both disembark. They're a 9-inch move. They advance. You can spend a CP to advance max. And you basically almost always get 2 Pure Strange Genestealers onto your opponent on the bottom of one, sometimes top of one as well with the pregame move. And then you pop the special ability on the Primus to give them rerolls. You power them up with the Magus, and they just go absolutely ham. And that's what he did all of his games. He actually, he's the first person I see to actually get models in melee with a unit of Swooping Hawks before the game had basically been over. And in all of his games against Inari, he was able to do that. He was able to kill Swooping Hawks in melee, which I was like, my God, y'all gotta calm down. Those Swooping Hawks do not belong in melee. They're supposed to be invincible. So yeah, highly recommend you go check out those games. Really showcase what Genestealer Cult can do. It's a very cool faction. Grinning Demon Series GT. I know we had some comments about Grinning Demon from the beginning of the stream. Who is that Grinning Demon? Shout out. Techno Heretic was a Grinning Demon. Hope that was a good event. Sounded like it was fun. 2 Blood Angels finishes. I know Skari has a video about his games with Drukhari, so definitely go check that out. Ridvan Martinez with the 5-0. He had a Obsidian Rose detachment out of the Cabals. The Court of the Archon, a Ginblade Archon with Ancient Evil, 3 units of Cabalite Trueborn with Phantasm Grenade Launchers and Blasters, 2 units of Incubi, 3 Raiders, the big Court of the Archon as well, 4 Sliss, 4 Urgles, and a Hlamian. Raiders to carry it all around in, and then looks like another Obsidian Rose detachment. This one is led by a Succubus, so no Witch Cult on her. But she has the Triptych Whip and Show Stealer alongside Precision Blows to do mortal wounds. A 3rd unit of Incubi, and then Drazhar, who is the Warlord with his Warlord trait, 3 units of Rax. 5 Grotesques, 3 Venoms to put those racks inside. Good stuff. The Cabal of the Obsidian Rose, I don't know if I'm familiar with, but we should definitely double check what it does. That one is a floating wound reroll, so you get 1 wound reroll and it's plus 6 inches of range, so you get to play real, I guess a real campy game with the Cabalite Warrior, or the Cabalite Trueborn. Yeah, the Trueborn and the Warriors. When you get the blasters, plus 6 inches of range of the blasters, so it shoots 18, is that right? Or excuse me, 24? Their base 18 and they get an extra 6? Yeah. So they can shoot 24 inches. They can stick in the back, and then they all get floating rerolls. So a little bit better than the Black Heart version. Sam Procopio, excellent Blood Angels player, 5-0. This is very similar to the list we just talked about. So it does have a Chapter Master. I know this is Sam's sort of signature combo. He has Rites of War on the Chapter Master and then Visage of Death as well. And then he's using the double Warlord trait to get Soul Warden on top of that. So 5+ damage ignore against mortal wounds, gives everyone OBSEC and has OBSEC himself, and then removes OBSEC if he's within 3 inches of you. So if he sits in the middle of an objective, he gets most of the objective with the 3-inch no OBSEC aura, so he can basically take objectives himself. Lamarty's in that detachment, a Sanguinary Priest with, sometimes it took Teeth of Terror. We were on Armor Indomitus today. Make him harder to kill. 2 Incurser squads, an Intercessor squad, 2 units of Death Company Marines, or 3 units of Death Company Marines, excuse me, 3 units of Sanguinary Guard, 1 of 5, 2 of 7, mix of Infernal Pistols, axes, and swords. 1 Assault Squad, using all those free Assault Squad upgrades, a couple Inferno Pistols, a couple Plasma Pistols, got a Lightning Claw in there, all for free, good stuff. 1 Land Speeder, most likely to score, Relentless Assault, just zip into somebody's deployment zone and shoot a multi-melta occasionally when you don't need to do that. And then an Eliminator Squad. I like this list. I do like the focus on the Phobos Marines. The Incursor Squads, especially, give you options for getting some early Relentless Assaults. And the Incursor Squads out of Blood Angels are pretty lethal. +1 to charge, +1 to advance if you want to just run onto objectives, and +1 to wound in melee with those little paired combat blades. It's pretty lethal. Obviously, you get... they go to 4 attacks apiece on the charge with AP2 with +1 to wound once you unlock Assault Doctrine. So if they survive that long, they actually hit pretty hard. This one's a little bit different. So we're running Dante in Jake Brunette's list here, the 3rd place finisher. Has a Chaplain on a bike with Artisan of War, which I believe is +1 damage. Mantra of Strength, so access to an additional +1 damage. So we can go to damage 4 on the Crozius. And then Armor Indomitus, so he's very tough to kill. That's cool. A Sanguinary Priest, a Selfless Healer. Tactical Squad, Incursor, and Assault Intercessor Squad with 1 big Blade Guard Veteran brick, 1 unit of Death Company, 3 into Sanguinary Guard, and a Terminator Assault Squad. What is this list, chat? Holy crap. It has 1 regular Dev Squad, but no Transport Corps. Expecting to see a drop pod here, but no, just chilling. Sometimes you see a trio of Eradicators in that slot. They just sort of sit in the back and they shoot something that comes in the range. The Devastator Squad has a longer range, so it can kind of poke at your opponent early if you need it. The Grav is also probably pretty strong into a bunch of profiles that we're dealing with right now. Now that a lot of people are heavy armored. And that brings us, everybody, to our last event of the weekend, the Crumpus Claws Brawl, won by TJ Lanigan. Congrats to TJ. This is a Tzeentch list, so it's interestingly a double Scarab Cult Terminator list, a little different than the normal one we see. It's actually 2x8 Scarab Cult Terminators instead of the 2x10. 2 units of Cultists, 2 units of Rubric Marines, 3 characters. So it's a little different than we typically see, but mostly the same. Looks like we've cut a couple of Flamers, we've cut a couple of Rubric squads in order to get, and we've got 2 Terminators out of each squad to get a second brick of Terminators in, which clearly worked out. I could see that sort of the list is relatively lightly armored and kind of flimsy if you're reliant on the Rubric Marines. Against some profiles, they're easy to kill, but if your opponent has a lot of 2 damage, especially decent AP 2 damage, then they just fall over. That whole army just gets destroyed. But obviously the Scarab Cult Terminators don't have that problem. I'll talk about Innis real quick here first. Running High Fleet Kraken, so it's again this is like sort of the other compartment of the Tyranid. So the Tyranid metagame right now is like either Kraken or it's a Lurkbot morphology. And we've talked about all the Lurkbot morphologies. It's time for the Kraken subsection. So Innis playing double Winged Hive Tyrants. This is very similar. This is, I think, I do say very similar, but I think it is actually just exactly John Lennon's list. So it's 1 Reaper of a Bloodwrack Tyrant, 1 Neurothrope, a second Maw-Claws Tyrant, 2 units of Tyrant Guard, Venom Thropes, 2 units of Warrior, no, 1 unit of Warriors, 1 unit of Gargoyles, 2 units of Zone Thropes, 2 units of Raveners. These ones are all Rending Claws. We're not mixing and matching quite as much as John Lennon's list, but it's very similar. So we have talked about that list in the past. But I think the most exciting one to round out the show for today, everybody, Derek Apshe with Grey Knights. Kind of out of nowhere. Grey Knights are probably one of the most underperforming factions in the game currently. How far the mighty have fallen from this time last year when we just couldn't get enough of Grey Knights. Although they were starting to fall off this time last year, to be fair. I think we were right around December last year. I think we were right around Adeptus Custodes coming out and killing everyone. Grey Knights. Let's talk about it. So a Brotherhood Librarian. This is out of Prescient Brethren. So we have the psychic action to do get to get command points. Plus, we can spend a CP to get reroll ones to hit and wound on a unit. Which is, so it just makes it basically makes the whole sub action super consistent. Not quite as high damaging as the one that gets +1 to wound. Who's that? Who are those guys? It's been too long since Grey Knights have been meta. Oh my god, I forgot everything about Grey Knights that I knew. It's not quite as damaging, but it's not rapiers, right? Rapiers get charge bonuses. It is sword bearers. Yeah, sword bearers, you could get +1 to wound with Empiric Lodestone on your big guys, but it does work on the little guys. So if you're if you're trading for objectives with your strike or teleporty boys, then Prussian Brethren makes more sense because you don't need as much support to make your infantry do damage because you can spend a CP and give them basically all of the reroll auras. So we have a Librarian, a Brotherhood Tech Marine. He's usually doing the action to get command points. Kaldor Drago in there. What a guy. 3 Strike Marine squads with Incinerators. Interesting. Plus a Paladin squad. So it looks like 2 Paladins? No, 3 Paladins in the Paladin squad. 1 unit of Servitors just to do some screening, do some actions. 3 Interceptor squads as the teleport guys. 2 of 10, 1 of 5. So we can split to 5 units of 5 Interceptors. Now, I don't believe that we have the objective secured aura on anybody. So the Interceptors are not obsec, so we're just trying to kill people on objectives, to be fair. 2 Nemesis Dread Knights with Psy Cannons and Gatling Silencers. 1 with a sword, 1 with a hammer, and a Rhino. You can put the 2 Interceptor squads on the Rhino. Because they operate like jump infantry, but they are not actually jump infantry, so they can still embark in a Rhino. You can disembark 3 inches, and then they move 12. So you actually get a pretty decent threat range. Especially on bottom of 1, if you have the Rhino in a ruin. You can jump them out basically on the other side of the ruin, and then move them 12 directly to the center of the table. So they usually threaten pretty well across the midline of the table and the bottom of 1. Which is pretty good, turns out. That's strong. Why is Derek running Prussian Brethren? Oh, I hope I answered that question by talking a lot about Prussian Brethren. Mostly the stratagem. The stratagem's really good. Reroll hit and wound of 1 just makes like a problem with Interceptors is that they usually leave your bunker, so they don't have any of the support from your characters. So being able to just ping a CP to them and give them rerolls is a pretty big deal. It's also works on your Dread Knights too. And a lot of times you see Nemesis Grandmasters in these lists, in these detachments as well, because it also works on the Nemesis Grandmasters. It's anything that's a Psyker. The Warlord trait is pretty good too. Yeah, the Warlord trait is what unlocks the psychic action, so that's usually why you have the Tech Marine to caddy that around, and he just like generates you 4 CP every game basically. Yep. That would be why. Yep, that's I think Prussian Brethren, they weren't quite as like flashy as rapiers or sword bearers, but they towards the end of Grey Knights being super popular, I think they came out as the dominant sub faction just because the consistency was really strong. You just constantly had enough CP to do what you wanted, and you could spend that CP to do a bunch of rerolls. And it turns out rerolls in this game pretty good. Rerolls are great. So huge congratulations to Derek Apchi. I think we had some good results at Everwinter as well from Grey Knights. I saw some Grey Knights with some wins. So really like mixing things up, especially with Genestealer Cults and Drukhari getting lifted up a little bit. Drukhari had an excellent weekend, at least for the player base, which is very, very low right now. But Drukhari have a sort of disproportionately strong win rate. Genestealer Cults doing pretty well as well. Blood Angels killing everybody. 2 5-0s, excuse me, and an X and 1 for Blood Angels between 2 events was a huge deal. And yeah, Tyranids falling off pretty hard. We had 1 first place. It was 1 first place and 1 X and 1. 1 undefeated and then 1 X and 1. So 2 4-0-1s and then 1 X and 1 from Tyranids. Which sounds about right. That's like a normal faction. I guess like two in the undefeated bracket's like a little overrepresented, but I think our Tyranid masters are well and truly dead. Now they're just our Tyranid, I don't know, slightly above average performers. They've been demoted slightly. Anyway, chats. With that, I think I'm going to go ahead and close out this show. This is a good weekend of events, honestly. Again, I want to thank everyone who came and watched me over at Everwinter. If you want to go see those streams, you can go over to the live section. Go check those out. I'm going to be live tomorrow playing games and playing Darktide. Probably playing Darktide over on the Twitch channel, so please go check that out. And I've got some Darktide content for this channel scheduled to come out later this week. So that's great. That's awesome. And yeah, just want to thank everybody again. Hope everyone has a good rest of your week. And I'll see you later. Remember to keep it classy, folks. And do that thing where, like, you have happy wargaming. Yeah.